Hello and welcome back to the podcast, We Are Selling. This week I have a journey story. Many years ago, there was this wonderful young man, top salesperson of his area, very young in the business, and appeared on Real Estate Hot Topics, the audio. Today, still doing very well and has grown into a real estate brand and a business that is one of the best we've seen in the Melbourne marketplace. I'm going to reveal the name and bring him in. Please welcome to the studios, Spiro Drossos.
Hey Lee, how you going?
You've grown up in front of my eyes.
I certainly have. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
How old were you when you first appeared on the program?
I would have been 27, 28.
27, 28. You just come in from hospitality, working massive hours.
Yes.
What was it like to land in real estate?
Oh, look, initially it was very daunting, but also very exciting at the same time. Coming from hospitality, working millions of hours a week, coming into real estate and not really knowing what to do. But I quickly found my feet because I found a lot of synergies between hospitality and real estate in that it was all about people and customer service. So there's a great synergy there.
Now, you see lots of things in hospitality. There's things going on in the bathroom, the steaks are burned. What did you learn about that?
So I certainly did. There was a lot happening in hospitality, and you get to meet so many different people, all walks of life. You know, you're working in a gaming room, restaurants, nightclubs, and you experience so many things at such a young age and all different facets of life. And that springboard into real estate meant that I was dealing with people in hospitality. You deal with them in a living room, a lot of similarities. Everyone's got a story.
Well, I'm going to add to that story. When you were a young man coming into real estate, and you worked for the original Barry plant, Barry himself, you're in that office.
That's right, in East Doncaster.
And you're one of the first people to understand effective business units and putting a team around you. What were the results back then?
Absolutely. And that was what I really strived for, was to build a team around myself. When I spoke to Barry initially, he spoke to me about leverage and about expanding my business and multiplying my efforts through other people. So that was my first grounding and first teaching of growing a team. Back then, we did really well. Within a couple of years, we were writing 1.5 million in gross fees. And back then, the average sale price would have been $350,000. So
350,000.
Imagine that now, Lee.
In the Doncaster bread and butter marketplace.
Turning over a lot of real estate back then and really putting on a team around me to be able to support me to do that. And interesting enough, those two assistants that were with me during that journey are now my two key business partners in the Eastern Group for Barry Plant.
This is such an interesting part of the story, and I just want to bring it to our national attention, especially for my principals out there that know this next part of a business that you acquired. So when you were there at Barry Plant, I was across the road training at Philip Webb's. It was one of my big assignments. They had agents everywhere. It was the big business of Melbourne, very famous, and Phil did some incredible talks around the country. Well, of late, and you can take over the story, you've acquired Philip Webb.
Yeah, I have. That's correct. Myself and my business partners. Yeah, we purchased Philip Webb Real Estate. At the time back then, they were our biggest competitor. Great business, doing some really good things in the area. And just by the opportunity that it was time for Phil to retire, we were in the marketplace. So it was perfect for us to step in and do that deal.
Quite a big run from the 27-year-old kid who did well as an EVU. Where is the group up to now?
Yeah, we're now got 5 locations that we service in the eastern suburbs. We're opening up a new office as well now, one in Ivanhoe, and also opening one up in Baldwin also. We've got close to 170 team members on our team now across our offices.
170 team members. That's some EBU.
It certainly is. It's grown significantly from 3 back then. And we manage close to 7,000 rental properties.
Unbelievable. That's a lot of doors that you've claimed.
Yes.
And congratulations on the journey. You are not that old. And I look at this journey, and this is why I brought you in today. When the producer said, Lee, we've got a lot of agents out there. They're 25, 35, 45, 55. And what is it you need to do to become a professional agent? And I know you're building your own training programs right now to get people from bench to field as quick as you can. From that journey of from there to now, you've experienced and observed so much. If a 25, 35, 55-year-old agent, whatever age somebody decides they want to be successful, came into you now for advice, what would you step them out to do to become the best they can be?
It's a great question, Lee. And over the years, I've been able to experience agents come into the company, and I've seen the ones that have made it and the ones that haven't. And there's definitely a skill set there that's required. And that seems to compound, and it seems to work for each agent as well. I think the first part to anything is that they've got to have a desire and willingness and commitment to whatever goal it is for them personally. So I think that commitment, is very important to begin with for themselves, to create a brand for themselves in the marketplace, to have very strong customer focus and customer service skills as well, and have the ability to do the basics in our business over and over and over again.
When you first came in, what struck you looking back in time there of skills you could adapt over? Because, you hadn't been in real estate that long, but you were doing numbers 4 or 5 times everybody else. What was the breakthroughs? What did you realise about your skills that were making you one of the best in the area?
I think the main thing, Lee, is in relation to working with people, and this is a people's business. It's about connecting with people in all walks of life, in all different scenarios. And having come from hospitality, and we find people now that come from retail, customer service or hospitality, they have got an advantage because they have got that skill set to be able to adapt very quickly to another person and identify their needs. So I think that's paramount, being able to deal with people.
What about the connection to training, but then the activation and implementation? Like I can speak to you, we might be having a chat about something and you'll say, oh, just how does that work? And then the next thing, artwork's done, you built the lead behind, or you're passionate to get that done. What's been your speed to market, and has that always been something that's served you well?
Yeah, that's correct. Speed to market is very, very important to be able to take something, an idea, and act on it very, very quickly. And I think the speed of delivery is very important, but it's also, again, speed back to a customer is just as important, or speed back to, after an appraisal and how quickly you get back to somebody. So I think speed today is a currency in itself. It's very, very important that someone has that ability to be able to implement very quickly, and only through action can you lead your business. You can have all the ideas in the world, but if you can't put them to action, then nothing's going to happen.
Leadership is an interesting topic. And even when I speak on a program like We Are Selling, or I'm at the Complete Salesperson course, you mention the word leadership and people think you're talking about a CEO or something like that. But a leader is someone who can lead a decision. And that could be the owner deciding to invest and go with you. And then they're on the market, and then we've got to lead them to understand what the market's prepared to pay for the property. And then we're coming up to auction day, what the reserve is or the final offer. There is a skill in leadership, and you did it in your own career. You're able to lead to the results that you got. But more importantly, you've led a whole group of people now, hence the purpose of being on this audio today. That leadership moment, I think salespeople need to understand you do need some leadership.
You certainly do. And that comes through clear communication. So to lead a vendor into the next steps, you need to be able to communicate with them effectively and plan out their next steps so they feel safe and they feel secure. It also provides clarity that I'm going to choose this person, I feel safe, and it's clear my journey ahead with this person. It's no different in leadership with leading a small team in EBU or leading 170 people. Clear, consistent communication is paramount to be able to lead. People need to feel safe and know where they're going, whether it be a team member or whether it be a vendor.
Now, we just had your entire team, along with the Barry Plant Group, locked down for 2 days, going through the full Complete Salesperson course experience. And as you know from being at that course, lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. When you look at all the agents you've led and assist today, and even in your own coaching programs that you are putting together, when it comes to lead generation, what are those key moments where the agents who you've had succeed do really well, be it claiming doors? What's your observation in lead generation, what they had to do to cut through and not just be another agent?
You've absolutely nailed it, Lee. How long have I got? I've got 2 hours to talk about this. I'm in the zone now. We're right in it. Absolutely paramount. Lead generation, pipeline management, and being able to stay in contact with people that you've appraised or people that you've met in the community. They don't always have to be an appraisal, but people you've met, you've database, and we refer to it as also claiming doors. Now, back when we worked together, we had a lot of success around creating a pipeline where back then we spoke about unsigned commission and looking at a pipeline a lot differently and tallying that up, which certainly changed the way I ran a pipeline. I still train my team around the same concept. But it's paramount. Anybody that you bring on needs to have the ability to chase leads, lead generate, and create a pipeline. So before we do anything at all, at the start of our journey with a new person, they have to identify they have the ability through training and development, of course, from ourselves, that they can create the basics and create them well, which is lead gen. Once you've got that right, everything else can be taught so easily after that, but you've got to have the leads to be able to convert. So it's the main item for us, and it's our main indicator in our business across my offices. Every single day I get a tally at the end of the day on how many leads we've generated for the day, and it keeps me on track with how we're going.
What's a good day of leads for you?
A good day for leads is 60 across our offices.
So 60 leads. And when we look at the listing streams or the opportunity streams, what's working best across your offices?
In listing streams, phone contact is still the best. So going back to the basics, open for inspections, a huge lead source for us as well. Social media is playing a bigger part for us now. Direct mail and direct email marketing also generating leads. But phone calls is still generating the highest amount of leads for us.
Now, I was working with some people the other day, and actually Danny Grant was on this one with me, and we're talking about visually prospecting, where you've got 2 jars, you put 100 marbles in one, and every time you get a connect, you put it over to the next one because someone's got to be keeping count. What's a good day of connects for your agent? And for the agents listening, thinking, how many do I do a day? Probably don't even know. How are you counting them, and what's a good day of connects?
We have our different lead sources. So we're still pen and paper with our leads, and we cross off as we go. We circle the ones that we've connected. So if we're going to make 100 calls for the day, we're likely to connect to about 40 people. We want between 2 and 3 appraisals from each prospect every single day.
What phone calls work better now versus then? So we've all got our favourite phone calls that we're making, but what's working best in your business?
First and foremost, I think our database calls are working the best because these people are already in our database and we're staying in contact with them frequently, bringing them to a list. Apart from that, open for inspections are a very good lead source for us. Street marketing, exceptional. The 10 by 10 by 20s around solds, around our solds, around our competitors' solds are generating good leads for us as well.
Some things just don't change. Everyone was waiting for this shortcut app. There is no shortcut. And I just released to your team the Ultimate Agent, the Matt Steinwade one.
Yes.
And the biggest thing that came through in Matt's work was the nurturing process. Like every day he makes a phone call. It's not about finding a listing today. Can I just start that process? Can I put them through my sequence? Can I warm up the data so that when it does come time, I'd be the obvious choice? But I think people prospect to list versus meet to nurture to convert later on.
Absolutely. And again, it comes down to a pipeline that is not coming on the market today, but coming on the market in 6 months or 12 months or 2 years. And there's a huge difference in agents that are able to nurture those relationships in adding value to the relationship, not just calling and saying, are you selling, but actually providing a service of what's happening in the market at the moment. I think the other part, Lee, that, I was saying to my business partners the other day, had we had those tools when we first started, we could have doubled the amount of money that we were writing. Today, it's easier to access the information, where previously we would have to go onto all the different sites. It takes a day just to get the actual data to call. So we're 8 hours of collection of data. But today you've got programs that will give you all that information of what's sold and who's on your database, and these are the people you should call. So you get up in the morning today, those lists are already in front of you. You don't have to go looking for them anymore. But nothing changed. It's still a contact sport. It's still a human being to human being business. And the more involved you can be in that, the better outcomes you'll have. You can't outsource technology, I think, for your prospecting. You can outsource it for your leads, but you still have to communicate with someone. You can send out newsletters, you can send out mail drops, but they still need a phone call from you to connect the dots.
Yeah, warming up the data is where the first part happens, but we're never going to take away, thank God, that human connection and commitment to providing knowledge and helping people progress. Let's move on to lead conversion. The listing presentation you did versus the listing presentation today, what's changed?
What's changed with the listing presentation is it's become a lot more visual. It's become a lot more interactive as well. And you've got access to a lot more opportunities for exposure, for being able to promote that property to more buyers, to promote it more to more offices, where back in the day, it was a Word document that you go and you print out. Today, it's a lot more sophisticated. You've got your digital versions as well. You've got ChatGPT also. So it's a lot easier, I believe, to make things more bespoke, and they also look a lot better today.
Why do you think an owner still makes that decision to engage an agent today, regardless of technology? What's that final commitment?
Energy, clarity, communication, and a clear plan for the property.
That's an interesting one. Stage marketing, a clear plan for the property. How much time do you want your agents spending on that?
Well, you want them really reviewing it. You don't want them spending all day on it, but you do have to have a plan in place in terms of what the next steps are and explain that correctly to a vendor.
Now, you sort of came through as a natural lister, coming from hospitality. You knew how to read the play. You were used to dealing with all different types of people. So applying the real estate process is easier than learning the people process. What would you advise our agents now who want to get better at that listing conversation, the use of questions and so forth? What are you building into your own training programs to make them better presenters?
Today, the use of an agenda. So where's this conversation going and what can a client expect from the meeting? I think that's really important that they have a good understanding, because often still today, potential vendors are still a little bit skeptical around that particular meeting and what are they going to get sold to. So having a clear agenda, I think, is very important. And also structure, a structured listing presentation that covers the main points that the owners want to know.
Do you still get a chance to go out into the lounge rooms?
I do indeed.
And is that to keep you match fit? What's the reason?
It's a bit of both, really. Yeah, past clients of mine and also helping out agents as well.
And what do you find when you're back in there? For me, nothing changes. There's still humans looking for direction. But what have you noticed from when you started to now and in assisting the other agents?
That's another great question. What hasn't changed is the ability to be able to connect with the client, provide a lot of energy, a lot of certainty and clarity in relation to the next steps. Belief transfer is extremely important. They've got to believe and trust in the process that you are providing. What's changed is that I believe today vendors have more information than they've ever had before. They know just as much what we do in terms of information. Comparable sales, they know them better than what we do when we go in. They know which ones we should be providing them. So the visual side of things as well has also changed. We can provide them a lot more visuals for them to have a look at as well.
Case studies.
But they're wanting the edge. They're saying, okay, when I'm looking at an agent, what's the difference between one agent to another? Because I've got all the information, and it comes down to strategy.
What do you believe is the difference between a Barry Plan agent out in the marketplace that you're putting through the streets compared to the standard offering?
Yeah, one of the differences is the fact that we're very well trained on how to present, how to build connection with people and get an understanding of different personality types. And our strategies that we adopt are very bespoke to each situation. So one of the differences is we don't go in with a one-size-fits-all approach. It's really based on the circumstance and what's right for the client. And we work with our agents every single day on how to approach every different scenario.
When you came through, there would have been a lot of role play going on to make that work. Is that still a consistent thing, or the agents moving away from that?
It's a good question, Lee. It's not as rehearsed as it used to be. There's the ability now to go online and learn, which we didn't have back then. So I'll look at the agents today and the things that we're rolling out with you. I mean, they're state of the art today to be able to train and learn when you're at home, having a cup of coffee, the day's finished, you've just done an appraisal, and you can go onto 2 modules that you want to improve on, and by the morning, almost learned them. So that's a big difference today compared to what we had. We didn't have the YouTubes or the the amount of trainers that we have today, but also the sophistication that comes along with this training with the visuals, and the way you learn today is a lot different. Previously, again, back in the day, you'd have to get up in front of everybody and do a role play, which was very daunting, especially as a young guy coming through.
Very much so.
Today, you can learn differently. And that's with some of the work that we're doing with you in relation to creating these modules for training and development. They're state of the art.
And you can go back to it. You and I were chatting in the structural design of your own one of evaporation. You know, we had some of your senior agents come through the course and they're thinking, I used to say that. I used to do that. Why have I stopped doing that? And that evaporation is something everyone needs to bring on their radar.
Yeah, and that can happen as you get busier and you're doing appraisals all the time. You forget to include things that were working. And there's also the other thing too, Lee, what do you have to stop doing? Some things aren't working anymore and you've got to redefine. So these training modules, and you're right, like my senior guys, you know, they were so pumped after that session because they were enlightened again on things they were doing, but new things that they can be implementing now in today's day and age.
Client fulfillment is our final and most important part of this agent journey. And our agent will go back through this audio. And as they go back through this audio, you know, this is designed for you to take actions of, I need to do that. I need to give that thought. Do I have one of these? Do I have one of those? And don't do too much at once. I think people go way too wide. Pick something, get it going. Pick something, get it going. But when we come to this vendor management process, it's the grand finale of the entire real estate sales process. And as we often discuss, attract, engage, commit. You've attracted the owner, they've engaged, they sign that authority. Now the commitment side comes in, that they'll commit to the pricing and the final information that transacts a sale. No different to us putting a property on the market, attract, engage, commit. It's the same sequence. What can you share here that you've seen people really break through? I'm going to give you someone to visualize. Todd Lucas, one of your great agents and now partners.
Yes.
I met him when he was like 15 or something.
Great guy.
Great guy. Known him forever. But really good at that sensitive, caring part for the owner. Very different to your typical real estate agent. What's been the observations? How do we get better at vendor management?
I think today, Lee, you almost have to reverse engineer what we were taught all those years ago, how things have changed, transparency, ongoing contact with the vendor in relation to what's happening in a campaign. Because we have got more data to look at today, we know what's selling real time almost. We can keep people up to date very, very quickly with what's going on with their program. We can make comparisons around benchmarking and how we're comparing versus other similar types of properties. We can make comparisons around what other buyers are looking at. They're walking through this particular property, but they're also looking at these other properties as well. We didn't have that data all that time ago. Well, now we do. But I think fundamentally, one of the main aspects to vendor management is to review, preview. It's to discuss what's happened, let's say, for the last week in vendor management, with the property rather, and then discuss what the next steps are. So I say to my team, I have an agent says to me, Spiro, you know, we had a great open for inspection. We had 25 people through. And I'll sit down with that agent and say, that's fantastic. How can we get 35 people through next week? So even if it's going well, and that's how I taught Mark and Thea when they worked for me and now you know, significant business partners in the Eastern Group. But I'd always get them to think, even though it's going well, how can we still do better? And if it's not going as well, what are the next steps? So we've got to keep providing the owners that, again, communication and clarity around strategy, around this is what we're trying to do to get you sold, not just, hey, this is what people don't like.
Very powerful. And that's that leadership moment again. And I urge salespeople to study leadership, because it's not that you're leading an organization, you're leading 100 vendors to transact. But leadership is about using the right words, communicating with the right tools. And then you learn this. Vendor management could be your number one listing stream, because in every established client, one sale generates 5 if you've done a good job and if they felt you were really there. And I think more than ever now, in a world of AI and coldness, people really pick up when you do care and you've done that one little extra thing that you didn't have to do, but you did. And they notice that. And that's when the biggest success part of anyone's career is that method of introduction onto the next person in the community, which brings about an amazing question. You got a lot of doors out there, like 8,000 plus property managements. That's a lot of doors.
Yeah.
Because the 8,000 rentals are all owned by 8,000 landlords that live residential somewhere. So and no one lives too far away from their property unless it's an interstate one. But then for the group now, what's the target for a year of sales? What's a good year of sales?
We're averaging between 1,100 and 1,200 sales across our group now. Our target is 2,000.
Wow, that's a lot of doors.
It certainly is. But we've got the capacity to do that across our catchment areas and through the use also of our property management department and the landlords and connections to that side as well. So it's certainly real and possible over the next 5 years for us to reach that target.
Now, traditionally, property management data and sales data were two separate ponds with an iron curtain between them. Today, blending that together and having the salespeople interact with the landlords, not about their investment property, but how much the investment property is progressing. Do you want to expand your portfolio? What's been your learn on that in blending doors?
More than ever before, Lee, the importance of having that connection. You've got so many customers that sit in that portfolio. I mean, what we would do to reach them in 1 year, and you've got them sitting there, to be able to service them effectively and create a strategy for them of buying more property and creating a full circle program for them to transact with us and then us look after their property on the management side of things as well. So the opportunity is absolutely huge, but the connection's very, very strong. And previously, and that's one of the reasons I've worked so hard to get into the property management space, because there's such a big future in property management in Australia and Victoria as well. It will come back. And having that connection between the sales and property management is very, very important, and all the data connected together. So it's not off the table for anybody. We're there to service it. They're a client.
It's interesting. Real estate traditionally, we're going back a long way in time now, even before I came into real estate. But your original real estate agent did sales and property management because the consumer said, I've got a house. I either need to sell it or rent it. Over in the UK, they still do both. They'll sell it and rent it, and they put a big focus on it. Not saying that's right or wrong, but the customer likes to know it's just real estate. You're going to look after it for me, and bringing that to our team's attention that, it's not as if my division, your division. No, that the customer owns a piece of real estate. Their kids own real estate. The family's about to buy more real estate. We are the real estate agent. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. And congratulations on falling in love with property management. A lot of sales leaders missed it and just were so focused on sales that was just this hassle over there. What got you passionate about property management?
There were a few things, Lee. The first one is that I saw a huge gap, in particular in the Melbourne marketplace, with property management. Like you said, property management is always just a poor division of a sales company, yet it serves as an enterprise value. So when we want to sell our business, that is really what we're selling. The sales business does have a component, but nothing like the side of property management. So as a business owner, I wanted to create a business. I wanted to grow something that was scalable, but also sellable at the right time. But on the property management side, I felt that the tenants and landlords weren't receiving what they needed to be receiving as someone that owns a property. That sophistication of an investor and working through an investor for bigger and better things. How can we work together with somebody and grow their asset? How can we get someone to own multiple properties? I ran an investor night, last year, and people just wanted to sell. And I stood up on stage and said, look, let's just go through the next year before you just decide to sell your investment property. I sell enough properties in sales. I don't need everyone else selling as well, because these regulations and laws that have been brought into place, they're affecting the mum and dad, right? These people have worked hard, they've aspired, they've bought a second property. They might have bought a third property, and that's generally a nest egg for their children. And now they're saying it's too hard, I'm going to sell. Well, we've just got to hang in there. We've got to be the people there to hold their hand and take them through their journey. So, because they'll look back at 5 years and say, I'm glad I held that property and I'm a lot better for it. So that's where sales plays a big part, because we should be educating on the values of these properties and where they're going to go in the next 5 years.
If there's a coachable moment, and there's been many today, one of them there was, Spiro, your interest in property management is what makes you a complete agent. Whereas I think sometimes we study one thing that's not mine. Some of the best agents I've ever worked with in sales came from property management.
That's correct.
Because they learn to negotiate very early. They understand the process. And then coming into sales is a big transition, but not because they've done a more difficult part. So if you're a real estate sales professional out there, or you're wanting to become a real estate sales professional, have an interest in property management. Check in with your property managers. What's going on in the marketplace? What are investors upset about? Because that depth of knowledge, we've got to be our own mechanic where you understand everything going on. You can't just leave it to others. That expansion of knowledge is so important. Final question for you, and fascinating to see your journey. Actually, for time of recording, how old are you today?
48.
48. Wow, that's a long time.
It certainly is.
We both just keep turning up.
We certainly do.
And I think that's a skill. A lot of people say, that's it, I'm out, I'm going thing. And then you do that 5 times. How many jobs have you had versus you got to keep turning up?
And I think when you love what you do, Lee, and you're passionate and you've got the energy, you can keep going.
Very much so.
I've got so much energy and I've got so much still to give.
Well, that's our big wrap-up question. So for the agents, how many actual real estate agents do you have with you now?
38.
38. Where do you want that to be?
50.
So 50 is the magic number?
50 plus their associates. So with their associates, we're close to 60, but we've got 38 agents and their associates. So we've got a lot in the system and training program who will come through, and we monitor that on a quarterly basis. Who's that next person ready to come through, and are they ready? And how do we get them ready?
Now, there's people going to be listening to this audio right now that are in another job, always considered real estate, don't know if they can transition over. They get worried about all the things they hear. What would be your advice for those people that are considering that transition to come over?
If someone's considering coming over to real estate, I think it's definitely worth a discussion with somebody actually doing it, getting an idea of what it's about, especially if they're transitional types of roles, if they're coming from the sales role, if they're coming from hospitality or retail, to definitely have a look at that, even if they did a week in an office to see what it's like and see if it's grabbed their interest. But it's such a rewarding career and transferable skills to be able to double and triple your income.
Well, Spiro, a fantastic story, and congratulations to everything you've achieved there and what you're doing moving forward. And we look forward to having you on the program again.
Thanks for having me, Lee.